All right, welcome everybody. Welcome to Career Lab Wednesday. I'm your host, George Miller. Welcome everybody. So as we're going live here, there's a couple things. Thank you, Jane. We're up and rolling, got confirmation. So we're streaming live on LinkedIn and on YouTube, and I will share with you some about our topic today. And I'll remind several times of how you can join in. So I love it when you jump in directly on the Zoom link. If you are watching and you don't know where that is, just ask for it in the comments section. And if you're unable to jump directly in, you can type your questions into the comments section and Jane will get those over to me. This is Career Lab Wednesday and all questions are invited. Any question career related is fair game here, whether you're starting off early in your career or whether you are further along and looking for your next steps or how to communicate better with your boss, etc., etc. Any question career related is welcome. So thank you for joining in. Great having you here. I'm seeing some more folks coming on. Welcome everybody. So any question is welcome. You can type your question into the comment section on LinkedIn or on YouTube if you're not able to join in on the Zoom. But if you'd like to join in on Zoom, that'd be great. I'm delighted to work with you. I will be approaching career-related questions from the point of social and emotional intelligence. That's my expertise. That's my strength. And so that is the slant that I'll be having on it. So I always welcome other things as well, other input that people have sometimes. Last week, we had some great stuff about just how LinkedIn works, about how you, if you are looking for work, but you don't want to notify your employer, that there's ways that you can do that. So just wanting to say that I will be offering social and emotional intelligence coaching as it relates to your career, but I welcome other things here as well. Oh, good. Okay. Welcome, Corey. Good to have you on. And Joe, welcome back, Joe. Joe, I got to check in with you. Joe, I'm sidetrack. How are you doing? It's just been horrible to hear about everything happening in Maui. How's it going for you?
Well, things on Oahu, other than people can't drive, and unfortunately we're up to, I think, 35 fatalities on our roadways from year to date. Mostly motorcycle, but now cars, single occupancy car rates are up. So for whatever reason, people are, they're not attention to driving, so they're doing something else while they're driving. And so that's causing some problems. But by and large, departments moving forward. We just had a promotion ceremony yesterday, so really good. We have a graduation next Friday. So this Friday is a holiday, but we're working towards getting people over to Maui to help them with peer counseling, so that peer support, officer to officer support, because they're victims too, as first responders, and many of them lost their homes, either police or fire, and other first responders. So they're just as much victims as everyone else that was over there. And so working through all of that. Unfortunately, the death toll is probably going to rise higher. And it's just, it's immensely sad. That's an historic area of Maui. It was the original, not the original, but it was a capital of the Kingdom of Hawaii for a number of years. And so it has a rich history there, and it's all gone. And so I leave it up to the governor and the mayors and how they're going to rebuild that. But that's going to be months to come. Right now, it's just recovery and trying to relocate all of the missing people to see either they're with someone else or, unfortunately, they perished in the fire.
Oh my goodness, Joe.
Yeah, it's very sad.
My heart hurts. I've had you in my thoughts and prayers many times over the past few days. I've just been thinking about you. So I'm glad you joined in today. Just because I was thinking about you.
I appreciate that. I got a short time and then I've got to head over to the mayor's cabinet meeting, but I spend at least another 20 minutes with you and then I got to get ready. As you can see, I spend my mornings on the ocean. So I meditate and paddleboard on the ocean to get myself ready for the day, mentally and spiritually. And then physically too, because it's exercise. And then here I am in the office trying to get stuff done already. And it's just about 7 o'clock for me. So.
Oh, Joe, I love that you're sharing that. A quick CM Bellick's work about how doing that kind of thing of basically exercising in nature, whether you're jogging or paddleboarding or doing whatever, it activates your brain in a way that is going to have you be more creative throughout the entire day, better able to handle things. So I think that's a beautiful part of your practice, and thank you for sharing that with us.
No, thank you. I appreciate that. And that's my goal at my age though. I gotta pound the kinks out and get the brain waves going again and get them motivated. And I think you're absolutely right. Sitting on the ocean, paddling, and just trying to be one with nature and the water here. And I think that just helps me settle down. And then I'm starting to meet people on the ocean. And so, and some other people that are paddling, we, pass each other and say hello. And so it's just a good way to wake up in the morning and start your day. And but exercise is so important. I want to live to 103. And so I set that as a goal. So how do I do that? And I got to keep myself physically, mentally, spiritually fit to do that. And so here we are.
Joe, well, great. Well, wait, while we have you, what we're talking about today is career setbacks or challenges and how to approach those. And I wonder if you have a personal story you'd be willing to share.
Several, but one that comes to mind, to me, it was a career setback for me was, as you remember in 2018? We had the false missile alert that was here in Hawaii, and that started with my organization and my agency. And while it did a lot of good for federal and then now through all the states and territories in the nation, as far as FEMA and the way we do warning systems through cell phones, it created a lot of havoc. And it was a point in my career where I submitted my resignation because it was my organization. I take responsibility. Whatever happens good, I push that to the field and I give them all the kudos, but whatever bad happens, that's my responsibility. And so, but the governor didn't take me up on it. He said, no, I want you to fix the problem. And so we did it. But to me, it's something that's going to be with me for the rest of my life. And could we have done better? Absolutely. And did we make mistakes? We sure did. But how did we do that? And what was I as a leader, am I doing wrong that's creating a situation that happened? And so I really took a look at myself. And I think while it was a setback in something in my life I'm never going to get over, it's happened. It was a failure of certain parts. But I think overall, it turned me around. So that setback that I had allowed me an opportunity to reset myself and say, hey, wait a minute. You need to relook at how you're leading, what you're doing, and you got to get involved. And, a lot of people used to tell me, don't sweat the little things, they'll take care of themselves. Absolutely not. Those little things is what caused that. And so you got to be aware of everything. And so when I walked into this job here as the chief now, I take care and I look at everything. And I don't micromanage. I let people lead. But I pay attention to what's going on and I pay attention to the small things. And if I see or hear rumors of something, I ask questions. I don't point fingers. I just ask questions and I plant seeds and I get people to understand what's going on out there. If it's dangerous, if it's going to cause problems, I immediately take action. But generally speaking, I allow leaders to see the error or something that's going on and I ask them, okay, how would you fix this? And I let them fix it from there. And so I use it as a way to teach, coach, mentor, motivate, and inspire, and looking for my replacement. So that's what I espouse a lot. How do I? So for me, this whole setback thing was a way for me to relook in myself as a leader, and how do I move forward and reestablish. And then I retired right from that job, and now I'm here. And so, yeah, it was a setback. I still a painful reminder of what happens. It's on my phone as a reminder every 8 o'clock on July 13th. It comes up and it reminds me of what happened and what's going on.
Oh my goodness.
I mean, January 13th.
I'm so glad I asked you this question. That is so beautiful. So for everybody who's joining in, Joe Logan's been with us for maybe 2 years at this
Almost
point.
2 years now.
Okay. And is now the chief of police in Honolulu, and has been using coaching. He used this as part of his process of getting there. Although of course, you're doing all the heavy lifting and just used us as a bit of a resource there. But what you're sharing, Joe, about how you really took a look at yourself. Yeah. And honestly, I'll bring in another element too, is that you had a good leader that said, no, Joe, I want you to fix it. Yeah. So it was a combination of you being willing to do the hard work of looking inward and seeing what you could do differently, as well as having a good leader supporting you. Right. And that you were able to take that feedback of the universe, the world, the job in that moment and say, okay, what am I gonna do about this? And I'm so many people, when reaching out for coaching, will want to get over things. Will say, I think I got over that. What I'm so happy that you're saying is that you didn't get over it. You use it. It's part of who you are. You don't have to be a freaking perfect person all the time. And it makes you way more relatable. And I think just better able to be an effective leader with the rest of flawed, screwed up humanity. And instead of trying to hide things, you're actually able to share that, and you use it as a reminder, an important reminder of, oh yeah, like I need to remember this. This is a mistake that I really learned from and continue to learn from.
Absolutely. It was involved in my interviews to get this job. It was something that was out there. People tried to use it against me, but I owned it. I didn't shy away from it. Exactly what you're saying. I just said, yep, it was on my watch. Here's what happened. Here's what I did. Here's what I learned from it. And I'm never going to run from it. I'm not going to hide from it. I would be the first to tell people. I bring it up to people who don't even know, and I see where they're going with the conversation. And I'm like, well, if you remember, January 13th, there was a false missile alert. They go, yeah, I remember that. And I said, I was responsible. And people are like, whoa, why would you tell me that? Because, people think, like you said, that people would hide from or run away, but I own it. It's mine. And it will be with me for the rest of my life. But like you said, I've learned so much from it that I think I'm a better leader today.
Fantastic, Joe. Thank you so much for sharing that. So part of how Career Lab works is when someone's sharing, you're applying that to yourself. And obviously you're not, all of you listening in are not Joe, but I'll break this down some in some of the questions that we're getting here. But the basic thing is you want to look at what's the feedback that I'm getting from my job, from my boss, or from the world. And what is that highlighting about me as an individual that is a painful thing that I might unconsciously be avoiding? And then determining what are the changes that I would need to make? It could be anything from being at a job where you're getting bored of it and you don't want to be there anymore. But you're just collecting on that paycheck and you're sort of biding your time. And it could be, oh, you know what? I need to take responsibility. I need to go do something that's going to be more meaningful, or I need to look at what I could do here differently and what's the price that I would need to pay in order to develop myself here. So there tends to be a price needing to be paid. So Joe could have like denied things and not taken responsibility for it, or could have just totally retired, as he did try to do, and just said, I can't. This, I'm essentially I'm not enough, or something, some kind of limiting belief acting underneath. I'm not enough, or I don't really matter. But instead, Joe said, wait a minute. Okay, yeah, maybe I'm not enough. Maybe I don't have to be enough. Maybe that I can be who I am, and I can work with people in a way that hadn't occurred to me before. And maybe this isn't an indicator that I'm a totally flawed human being that doesn't deserve whatever. And so it's actually a way that if we're to look at it spiritually, it's like God communicating to you, here's a way that I want you to learn and grow. Here's the next step in your development. Here's who you could become. So often challenges in our careers our careers are great, because it's like where we spend a lot of time and effort. And so to have the career be really meaningful is to look at the challenges and look, okay, is this something that's going to help me learn and grow? So we are getting all kinds of things in here. And I'm seeing that, okay, some people have to jump off soon. Joe, I know you've got to go soon. Thank you so much for joining in. Just prayers and I don't even know what to say. I'm holding you in my heart, and I know a lot of people are as well, as you're working through the challenges there.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that, George. One of the questions I saw in the chat was, how do you handle a rejection letter, or a letter that says they found somebody else? And between the time I retired and the time I started this job, I probably applied for 7 to 10 different things, leadership roles, and they found somebody else all 7 of the 10, or all of the times I was rejected. And it hurts, but that's an emotional thing that's going to go away. And so I look at it as, okay, well, you obviously don't see the benefit of my what I believe I have to offer. And so now, okay, where do I improve? And then maybe if you could call the person back, or write a letter or an email back to the individual and say, okay, what was missing from my resume or my interview that didn't set me apart from other people, to help me reshape myself and then make me a better person. And so, like I did, once I had this incident with the false missile alert, then I went in and re-looked at myself and said, I need to fix some things. Then you use that opportunity to say, okay, can I fix myself? And then if you can get response back from the organization that said they found somebody else instead of you, then use that information to how to reshape yourself. And you don't have to make big changes. It's probably something small. And so you just learn that, and you got to be a lifelong learner. I mean, I've got TED Talks and podcasts and books, and I'm trying to do 19 million things in 24 hours, and I got to sleep for 6. And then I got to spend some time with the wife and the grandchild, and then work. And so you got to try to figure out how to do all of this. But you got to keep learning it and keep evolving yourself to the next. And just because that company doesn't want you doesn't mean there's somebody out there that doesn't. You just got to find it and keep working at it.
Rock on. Joe, thank you so much for that. Totally. And it is, in terms of the rejection letters, what do you do after careful consideration? I think Eric's comment that you probably won't hear back, that's probably true, but it doesn't mean that you shouldn't reach out and see if you can get feedback. What you want to do, Negus, is systematize this and understand that you're going to get a lot of rejection. It's just going to happen. It's the nature of sales. Right now, you're selling yourself to companies. And so you are going to get rejection letters. If you have a system where you follow up, see if you can get feedback, great. You can even affirm yourself in the fact that you're following up. And I even said that, it says, your skills and experience surpass the responsibilities for the position. That might be why they didn't hire you. There's all kinds of things there. Basically keep moving. And if you can find out more feedback, do it. Oh, Eric is saying ghost postings are becoming more prevalent. Huh. I'm going to have to learn more about that.
Yeah, it's in short, I'll just jump in real quick. Basically, it's where they post a role, or at least from my understanding, is that they post a role, but they really have somebody in mind already, but they have to post the role to see what other takers they are. But in reality, they already have,
Oh, okay.
It's like I heard it a lot with like professional orchestras where they'll have a seat for an instrument come open, but they already have somebody in mind, but they have to go through an audition process.
Yeah.
So
okay, that's good to know. Totally. Trent's talking about that too. So they might be planning to hire internally, but they have to put the role open out there. So
right.
If we were going to learn from, the feedback or the challenges, if this is the challenge, what I think the next step usually tends to be is networking, making the internal connections. If you want a role, doing some more riskier asks, connecting through LinkedIn and saying, hey, I'd like to find out more about your company. And that, if you're doing that kind of stuff, you're going to get rejected a ton, as in people won't get back to you. But if you do enough of it, some people will. Some people reaching out and wanting to hear about what somebody likes or what it's like working at a certain company. People like to talk about it. It's a helpful process of me speaking out loud about myself in an organization. That's a helpful thing to me. So if it can be a win-win for you reaching out, wanting to learn more, and it can be the start of a relationship. So that might be a step to take when you're in this interview or trying to get an interview process. So something to consider working with.
George, I got to run, but you take care. All the best to you. Thanks for your thoughts and prayers. We appreciate it.
You bet. Take
All
care.
right, aloha.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the service you provide and for all the hard work you do.
Thank
Really
you. Appreciate that.
Take care. All right. So I'm going to do a quick room reset. We've got lots of questions, stuff I got to get to. But this is Career Lab Wednesday. We are talking about career challenges and setbacks. Basic summary is it's feedback to you about ways that you can develop. Doesn't mean it doesn't hurt and suck and all that. Honor the pain of, upsetting things that happen in your career. That's part of the process. If you get let go, there is a grieving process involved in that. It doesn't mean that you shouldn't be upset, but it's also, so, be upset, let that happen, let yourself have the feelings about it. But then what is the feedback that is provided to you through that challenge? What's the obstacle? If any of you have seen Oppenheimer, watched it again last night, I just think it's a phenomenal movie. And all of the challenges that Oppenheimer faced and the way that had him develop as a human being on this planet, I mean, really asking some deep questions about himself and humanity and becoming an authority in so many ways. And so maybe you'll make a connection for yourself there. But I want to jump in, get some of these questions going. If you have questions and you don't want to jump in directly on the Zoom and talk with me, you can type your questions into the comment section. Of course, I love it when you can jump in here, but I'm going to hit some of these that I'm seeing here. Let's go to this one. Sherrick, good to hear from you. Told today that previously approved promotion will not be implemented as the larger legal team is reevaluating the promotion process. So everything is off until at least Q1 next year. Yeah, no kidding. You're feeling demotivated and upset. Absolutely. How do you recover from this and get your head back in the game? It's a great question. It's a really, really great question. You know, I mean, one of the things is to find out, you might know the reason for this, why the promotion isn't being implemented. You know, yes, they're reevaluating the promotion process, so everything is off. But, you know, what's going on in the organization that's having this happen? Because it sucks to just sort of be handed things and not understand why. And then it's like, it creates a great amount of insecurity of, well, I put in all this work and this was my expectation, and now that's not being honored. I mean, that's a really big deal. Number one thing with business owners is don't F with people's money. I mean, that's so that has me thinking that there's really something big going on there. And if you're able to understand it in, you know, the way that I could relate to this is when the pandemic happened, we were a in-person coaching organization. We had a few remote things, but most of it's in person. And so when all of a sudden things go to online, well, we lost a lot of clients, and pay that I was expecting all of a sudden, you know, isn't going to come in. But I knew what was going on. You know, it's a global pandemic, and so yeah, it sucks, but I understand it. So that would be the first thing is to get more information about what's going on. And then another thing to say is, if, you know, for anybody listening in who might be relating to this, if you're expecting a promotion and you did the work for it and then it doesn't come through because they're changing the promotion process, like, it's okay to feel really hurt and upset. Absolutely. I mean, that is a, you know, it's a betrayal. It doesn't mean that you need to take it out on anybody at work, but I think it's understandable. And I think it's for you to know that it's okay to feel afraid because you don't really know what's going on in the organization, or even if you do know what's going on and it's just an indicator that it's really screwed up, well, good cause to feel afraid, to feel hurt, you know, and to feel angry about it, and sad about the loss of the promotion that you were expecting. So I hope this is addressing some of this for you. Great to hear from you. I'm sorry that it's under these circumstances, Shark, about this, you know, but I'm happy that you were able to be viewing in and to get some questions coming in here. So absolutely feeling very upset and demotivated. I think what it means for me usually is anger turned inward. If I'm demotivated or depressed, what that usually is that I'm angry, and it wasn't okay for me to express anger in the family system or culture that I was growing up in. And so what my system learned to do was to turn that anger back on myself and say, oh, there's something wrong with me. I did something wrong. And it just kind of, it supports the system, but it doesn't support the individual system of me, where I'm turning the anger back inward. So it might be very helpful just to hear, you know what, I am pissed off at this. I'm pissed off at this situation, and I'm going to express some about it to get that anger going outward instead of turning it inward and dragging me down. There is the function of anger is to move us away from pain and towards pleasure. There's nothing wrong with feeling angry. Doesn't make me a bad person. It's what is it an indicator that I'm trying to move away from what pain and towards what pleasure. So I hope that's helpful for everybody listening in. Great question. Really appreciate you sharing that, Shark. That's a vulnerable thing to share, and I really appreciate it. So everybody listening in, Career Lab Wednesday, you're welcome to put your questions into the comment section or jump in here directly on Zoom. As you are listening in, be relating it to yourself. How can you apply this to who you are, the challenges that you're having now, and the person that you're becoming? How can you be applying this content and people's shares to yourself so that you're developing in the ways that are meaningful to you? We got a question from Julie. How do you transition into a second act phase of a career? Where does one start to decide what they should do with the rest of their lives when a 20-year career ends? Whoa! Oh, Julie, that's a great question. That's a lot to dig into. That is a whole lot to dig into. If you're able to jump in, I'd love to talk with you. This is going to be great. Oh, Trent, thank you. I look forward to hearing more from you later. And thank you, Corey. But so Julie, just throwing it out there, if you can jump in, do, or type more questions, and I'm going to say some things. And if I get a response from you, great. If not, I'll just do the best that I can in this. So let's change the nature of this question, Julie. You are developing your career. Your career is not ending. You're asking when a 20-year career ends. No, that job is ending. And I don't know the circumstances of that, but that's just a part of your career. So if you hold it that way, it might be more helpful to consider. So I've early in my teens working in restaurants, I'm a server. Then I become a musician and I'm traveling and singing. And that's a lot of sales, by the way, of, selling myself as a singer, doing all the booking, that kind of thing. And then also having a furniture moving business. Okay. So what was I doing in there? Then getting into a sales job, going business to business. Okay. And then I'm getting into coaching. And what am I doing? And so my career, as I'm learning more about myself through developing, is that I have a knack for curiosity and exploration with people. That's what I would do in music with the bands. Welcome, Julie. And so it's actually one of the career development parts for me was becoming a coach and using the gifts that I was identifying as a server at a restaurant, as a musician, as a business owner. And I found out that I was really good at setting up the jobs, knowing where to send the moving crews to, because I could pick up on the vibes of people just by the sound of their voice. And so, there's a way that I'm developing my career. So Julie, great to have you on. I've shared some of it, so I'd love any reaction, but also I could just to find out more about you and you in your career that you are developing. So welcome. So share anything that you want in regards to a response to me, or just if you want to update me on where you're at in your career development.
Companies transitioning, not sure that I have a home in that transition or want to.
Okay. Okay.
And so that's where I am.
Can you say more about not sure if you want to?
Have been in the customer service game for 20 plus years, and my mother did a lot of stuff with social work, and that's always been something that I thought I would have gotten into before now. But I also have other passions. You were kind of speaking about, and I was getting on, so I missed some of it, but with the voices and things like that, you know, I have a huge passion with music, movies, things like that. I have a crazy weird memory about years movies came out, and it's I see the kids on TikTok that are influencers. I'm not saying that I can influence anything, but it seems that people do. And this is all I've done. So it's when you're probably more than halfway done with your working life, hopefully, it can be a little scary to think of starting something completely new.
For sure.
Because, you know, you're not in your 20s anymore. You're not in your 30s. You have dogs that rely on you. You have bills, you have mortgages, you have, so it's not so that's kind of where I am.
Oh, thank you for sharing, Julie. You know, as you are, can you tell me more about what's going on in the company? That's what the shift is? And if not, don't, you know, I get it, because we're cool. And there's another thing too. You can set up a 15-minute call with me. No cost, just I'll serve you as much as I can in that time. And if ongoing coaching is something that you'd be interested in, we can discuss that there. But I'll speak to several points that you're making here, and thank you so much for sharing, and sharing really vulnerably. And I apologize for this freaking lighting-ish situation.
Mine too. It's probably on my end too.
Okay. So, but what when a big change is happening in an organization, and this came up with the pandemic, oftentimes, sometimes our impulse is to jump ship and run and go do a new thing. You know, for a variety of reasons. It's not that you shouldn't do it, but it can often set you back, because I might not have realized how much most of us kind of suck at realizing our gifts, and usually other people kind of see us sometimes better than we see ourselves. And And so if I've worked in an environment for a long time and I've built up all this social capital there, and I have self-destructive tendencies, every human being does in whatever way. And so kind of knowing that and saying, you know what, how might this be self-destructive? And to not face some of the upset in a transition like that, I can tie it back to my childhood of when my parents separated and my older brothers and sisters left the house, and just how absolutely painful that was. Because now all of a sudden, all the negative attention is on me, because I don't have my older siblings absorbing any of that anymore. And so when my organization has been facing challenges, all of that gets stirred up. What I did as a teenager was I started drinking a bunch, and I ended up, leaving the family system altogether and left the city, left that area of the country. And in fact, I haven't gone back. But internally, I'm learning to go back, because I know that working through that stuff with family is the most direct line to spiritual growth that there is, and that the implications of that affect me in my life overall. But so as looking at that, there's been many times in the past few years where I wanted to jump ship, and I didn't, kind of because I knew that had been a pattern for me, that when I would jump ship, it was like I would lose all that ground that I had spent building up, getting there. And then it's like I'd have to rework it and build it all back in this new environment. And then I'd still have to end up facing the same frickin' challenge anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And doing that assessment, it's a choice that's up to none other than you. It's only you that can make it, but that might be helpful to look at it that way. I don't know. That's one avenue I was taking, Julie. But I'll wait for your response before saying something else. How is that landing for you?
I've thought about all of that.
Mm-hmm.
And avoid that.
And avoid?
Have weighed that.
Weighed that. Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay. What's the conclusion you're coming to?
That I'm unsure, but kind of back to the question of how do people even know if they do decide to, what would be, in high school, some have people to show them these are different career paths you can take.
Oh, okay.
What do adults have?
Okay, Julie, thank you. I took that one line we went on was kind of in sync with this topic this week, but this question, actually, the best thing, just straight career advice, is this is a stepping stone in your career. Whatever you decide from here, you want to date a lot right now. You want to check out a lot of things, try things out. If you're interested in doing videos and talking about how you see movies and how that is, just start doing it. And as far as I can tell, video content and this kind of communication, it's not going anywhere. It's only going up. And if that's an idea that you have and play with it, you can probably keep the current role that you have and do that too. And there's things that you could probably do where you could shift, some of the things that your current responsibilities. And then if you're also interested in other companies, then you start networking and talking to people about it. And if you've been at a place for as long as you have been, my hunch is that you have like you have a bank vault of goodwill there, and you could probably rely on some people there. One of my clients did a thing where her dream company reached out to her. I mean, like the number one place she wanted to work. And she was like, oh no, like, what do I do? Because I love my job. I love my current company. Like but like, I kind of can't say no to this. And I asked her, well, if you were your boss, what would you want you to do? She's like, I'd want me to talk to me about it. And they ended up having so many good conversations from this. She did end up leaving, but it was over the course of 6 months. And it was a really graceful transition where she actually used her exit in a way that launched that company into a new space, like being more efficient. And so, that was her spiritual development there, was trusting that people were going to have her best interest at heart, even if it meant they weren't going to have access to her for the next 5-10 years.
Right.
So, you're in a really cool, and probably painful, transitional phase here, whether you're staying there or not. But, any response to what I'm sharing here?
No, that's all really sound advice. And I
Okay.
appreciate the time. Thank you.
Cool. You bet. Let's stay in touch about this, because I'd love to hear more about what you're discovering. And back to the original question of, if a 20-year career is ending, I say your career is you and your career. Your career isn't ending. You are just using whatever this transition is and incorporating it into you. And it's giving you a lot of valuable data about you and helping you become the woman who you want to become. You have a drive to reach your potential. It's one of the most meaningful things to you that you can do. And this is giving you a great amount of feedback about you and what your potential is. And so you're going to use it to help propel you forward. And
thank you.
It might be painful. It probably will be. There will be discomfort, but that doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you as a human being. Your fear, hurt, anger, sadness, and joy are data points that will help you determine, oh, I'm angry about this. I want to move away from that pain towards this pleasure. It's gonna incite some fear, because any change is always going to do that. But I want to turn that fear into excitement. And instead of resisting feeling the fear, how can I let myself feel it? It's sort of like on a roller coaster. If I'm like trying not to feel afraid on a roller coaster, I'm just like, that's where you get the whiplash and it's horrible. But if I can say, oh my God, this is exhilarating and terrifying, then there I go. And I'm going to have way more energy, and the fear and all the emotions can move through my body and not lock up and keep me emotionally constipated and stuck in my interactions. So, Julie, thanks so much for sharing.
Thank you, George. Thank you.
You bet. Okay. So this is Career Lab Wednesday. Thank you, everybody, who's been joining and sharing. Yes. Hey, Vern.
Hi, long time don't talk to you.
Yeah.
Virtual Vern here.
What's happening?
I just thought I would tell you, but they report to you, update you on
Yeah.
the
What's the update?
updates. I didn't get the position. It went to a younger person, and well, I'm trying to do all kind of backpedaling on this situation, but at the same time, I think cover letters are key with regard to some persons, as you know, are really time challenged. Most of us are. And at the same time, maybe the recruiters are in the same situation. And because of that, they have like a minimum a few seconds to look at every resume. And therefore, I'm thinking that either reduce or eliminate or do something else to the cover letter so that people actually get a chance to look at the resume. A friend of mine hit the nail on the head the other day with regard to that. Oftentimes recruiters have not got the time to look at the actual resume because there is oftentimes things that you and I had spoken about days ago that might be really appropriate. Talking about the achievements.
Vern, that might be. I don't know, but cover letters are very often important. And more important is the networking and that kind of thing and getting the feedback. What I'm curious about is you didn't get the position, it went to a younger person. Did you get any feedback?
I did.
What was the feedback you got?
This is kind of interesting. They had a slate of 10 different things that they wanted to focus on. And the 10th item was one that was probably not exclusively pointed out. I didn't do a lot on number 10 because quite frankly, I thought the first 5 maybe were more important than the 10th one. And that 10th one, if I can be specific, was with regard to grant writing, grantsmanship. And I have a boatload of experience in that realm. One of my employers years ago.
Vern, wait. So, just feedback right now for you. Are you open to some feedback?
Sure. Absolutely. Always.
I notice I asked a question and I'm having a hard time tracking what the feedback was and the importance of it.
Okay. They had description in the a job posting that was listing about maybe 10 different responsibilities. And actually, they had other ones that were more, should we say, detailed than that, than the 10th one. The job description, as you've probably seen them, George, is oftentimes been very, very inclusive of things. And I know that oftentimes in the course of an interview, you don't have a chance to talk about each and everything that's on the realm. And it was perceived that I have zero experience in the 10th one, and I have a huge amount of experience.
So they told you they went with a younger candidate because they had more fundraising experience?
Correct. Exactly. And I have a huge amount of that.
Well,
and I would have.
The bottom line, as I'm hearing it, Vern, is that you didn't really make contact with them. And did you interview?
Yeah, I did. Absolutely. It was a third interview, even. And I know that oftentimes, there's going to have to be a loser. The people that didn't get the position.
But so in the third interview, still by that time, they didn't know that you had a lot of fundraising experience?
Apparently not.
So my hunch is that's just what they said, but that there's actually more feedback that they didn't really say. I don't know, but just in hearing what you're saying,
yeah,
is that somebody was just like, well, we have to give Vern, we'll give Vern some feedback. And they picked that. But
Exactly.
it's also data to you that I would say that you didn't ask them enough questions to really find out what was important to them about the role and what needed to happen with that role.
Exactly.
So that's data to you that when you're interviewing, you're gonna need to ask more questions.
True.
So
That's
that
very true.
when you're giving your experience, so this is really, I'm glad we're touching on this. So in the last couple minutes here, the strategy with interviewing is that you're identifying what the problem is that they're hiring you for.
True.
And then you're talking about that with them and starting to strategize on how them hiring you would fix that problem.
Ironically, George, that's one of the items that we focused on in the achievements of my resume.
Was what?
That of grant writing and fundraising was something I focused on. The fact that I've not only just done a grant writing and a fundraising, but it's been highly successful. I put that in my resume, and unfortunately, they overlooked it.
Yeah, but did you talk to them about it?
I did. Probably not as much as the other things.
No, what did they say?
Nothing.
Did
Well,
you
I had
talk to
asked
them about, did you talk, when you were interviewing, did you ask them about how fundraising, what their needs were for fundraising?
I did.
What'd they say?
Housing and other things that were vital. Housing and business starts.
They said that they needed fundraising for housing and startups.
Correct.
Okay.
And
then what about that did they need? How would you being hired there have fit into that?
As community development, vital. It's central. Oftentimes, low LMI, low moderate income housing and affordable housing is vital. Section 8 housing is vital with regard to fundraising and grants.
So right now, let's just do a quick role play on this.
Okay.
So Vern, fundraising is a critical part of this role. It looks like you have a lot of experience with that. What would you bring to the table on this? How would you approach our problem of fundraising?
I'm not sure I understand your question. Approaching it with regard to being familiar with the community and saying that there is a necessity for affordable housing.
So what you want to do here, Vern, is tell me about how you have already done this at a previous job.
Okay. In different communities, outlying communities, smaller communities, there's a problem with regard to housing, a shortage of housing, especially in the lower echelons of prices.
Yeah, you're talking about the problem, but this is, Vern, we got to work on this next week, because what I need to hear as somebody hiring you is I need to hear you identify, at this role, at this previous company, there was this problem where we had to fundraise for this kind of thing. And what I did was I took the initiative on that. I worked with so-and-so and so-and-so. And what we ended up doing was raising this much money. I identified the way the grants needed to be written. I got those through, and then we brought in this much money to make the project happen. That's what I need to hear from you.
Very excellent. That's what happened. And I
Yeah,
was
but
just,
do you get, Vern, this is huge. Do you get that that's not how you're describing yourself to me?
well, I guess I was at the initial point, and it's really required that fact that you didn't just knee-jerk the reaction. I did actually establish there was a necessity for such.
You
therefore-
established, but Vern, we got to wrap. It's 1 o'clock and I got to go. But this is a huge piece of social and emotional intelligence or soft skill training for you. This is a big deal for you to be able to talk about yourself in a way that other people are going to be able to relate to. You're super smart. You've got a lot of credibility in ways, but this type of interaction is critical. So let's keep working this. I'm so glad we're getting to this. Vern, thank you for sharing. We got to wrap next week, Wednesday, noon to 1 Central Time, Career Lab Wednesday. Thank you everybody for your time and for your sharing vulnerably on here.